What's up everybody? Welcome back to another weekly market update. In this video, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum. We're going to talk about a piece of news that could potentially affect the crypto market. And then I'm going to look through 5 coins that were suggested to me from Twitter, and I'm going to give you my take on them. And surprisingly, this time around, Twitter actually gave me some pretty good suggestions. So if that's something that you might be interested in, then stick around and let's dive into the Bitcoin update. So last week I talked about how this block is going to be very, very important to hold if you want to see a 35k Bitcoin. At the moment, you have retraced back into this block and currently it does seem like you are going down a little bit. Now, is this any cause for concern? Personally, I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. First of all, this body here is a liquidity sweep, and currently price is going through a little bit of a liquidity sweep. And the reason why I use the bodies and not the wicks is because that's where most of the smart money volume is concentrated at. So currently, after you sweep this liquidity, this will give you enough fuel to bring the markets higher if you wanted to. But more importantly, it's because today is Monday. Now, Monday moves tend to be the false move. And if Monday tends to go down, well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday tends to reverse that move. So currently, we are still going according to plan. Again, the only point where the trade idea that I've been talking about for like weeks at this point is going to get invalidated is if you get either a candle body close beneath $26,300 or you get a candle close below $25,850, in which case then Bitcoin's going to go to low 20Ks and potentially even the high 10Ks. So currently everything is still intact. You just got to be patient and let price do its thing and not FOMO and start to doubt yourself. That is a very important skill to have as a trader, which is to literally just sit on your hands and do nothing. And yes, for those people who have not been watching my videos for the last few weeks, this is still a good time to get into Bitcoin with a long placing right about here. I'm going to place my stop loss either beneath that candle body over there, or I'm going to place my stop loss beneath the wick. Both can be good, and the target for this is of course going to be at around $35,000. I still highly believe that that is something that's going to happen, and even if it doesn't happen, well, so what? We have proper risk management and we're going to be fine in the event that this trade turns against us. So now let's talk about Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is in a slightly different situation compared to Bitcoin because we are still waiting for a retrace from Ethereum into the middle of this block here. Now, it has already retraced into this block, especially at the start of it. But if you want the best entry, you're going to want to look for the mean threshold of that block. And currently we're still waiting for that. But either way, I think that any part of this block is going to be a good entry. Again, stop loss is similar to last week. In fact, the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about this for a while now. Same stop loss, and the target for this trade is going to be around $2,500. Maybe at about 22 as a first take profit point. But either way, the game plan for Ethereum still remains and nothing has changed. Now, before I get into the 5 coins that are particularly interesting that were suggested from Twitter, I'm going to talk to you guys about a news event that could potentially impact the crypto markets. So recently, our beloved President Joe Biden just signed the legislation to lift the nation's debt ceiling again. And for anyone that knows anything about macroeconomics, this is no surprise. US has been raising its debt ceiling for literally don't even know how long. But when anybody ever talks about debt, it's almost like it's non-existent for the US because anytime they reach the debt ceiling, they can just raise it. Now, the reason why I say it's going to impact the crypto markets is because this is actually a piece of positive news for the crypto markets. As the US continues to raise the debt ceiling and just do whatever the hell they want with the US dollar, a lot of nations, especially globally, is going to lose its trust in the US dollar. And this situation could actually benefit Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and debt fears. And the reason I say this is because BlackRock CEO Lawrence Fink expects at least 2 more interest rate hikes from the Federal Reserve in the coming months. But then that's pretty much it. In fact, most of the market believes that there are only going to be 2 more interest rate hikes. And once the rate hikes stop, the market is going to enter a situation where money's going to start printing again and the economy is going to start running. This is going to pump a lot of money back into the markets, especially risk on assets like the stock market and the crypto markets. So this is going to be a similar situation compared to 2020. But of course, we're not going to immediately get the gains like 2020. Probably going to start slow. And then eventually in about 2-3 years time, we're going to really take off. And then by the time, well, I should say that a lot of people would have wished they got in at the end of 2023 or even the beginning of 2024. But either way, the end is in sight. And now let's get into the 5 coins that I wanted to talk about that could potentially be good. Now, if you want your coin to get a chance to be featured and I do an analysis on it, follow me on my Twitter at _theartofcrypto. Every week before I film this market update, I will ask you guys what coins are good, what coins would you like to see done an analysis on. So definitely go drop a follow. All right, first coin that I'm going to talk about is going to be 1-inch USDT. You can see that on the daily chart. I want you to imagine that price is currently trading between this range high and this range low, where most of the price action has been taking place between these two levels. Now, the reason why I mention this is because usually when the range high gets taken out, you can see that you go for the range low. And when the range low gets taken out, you go for the range high. The reason for this is because there's a lot of liquidity above the range high and below the range low. And at the moment, 1-inch has just taken out the range low, but it does seem kind of weak right now. So is it actually going to go up? Well, there are two scenarios that you're going to want to look for. The first thing you want to understand is that 1-inch has never really been lower than where it currently is at the moment. So this price is the lowest point since its launch. And because of that, 1-inch is pretty much a negative price discovery at the moment. And usually when something goes into negative price discovery or positive price discovery, you don't really want to fight that. I wouldn't necessarily look at 1-inch and immediately go, oh, 1-inch is cheap and we should buy 1-inch because it's cheap. Now, sure thing, it could be cheap, but it could also just be weak, because this is the markets we're talking about. The market is not a supermarket and you should never treat it as such. But here is a scenario that you could watch out for if you are interested in buying 1-inch, because this is going to be potentially a very high risk to reward ratio type of trade, where you could have like an entry there, stop loss there, and then targeting there for a 24 risk to reward trade. So this is exactly what you look for. On the daily chart, you're going to want to look for an engulfing candle, right? So an engulfing candle that goes to the upside, and then you want to look for this last bearish down candle here. That's going to become your order block. And then you want to wait for price to retrace back into that block. Then you're going to enter at the beginning of that block and place your stop loss at the end of that block. And then you're going to target where the range high is, which at the moment, I do believe that this would be personally my target at about 0.688. So this could even be like a 30 risk reward trade potentially. And before that happens on the daily chart, I would not even touch this. And I'm going to give you like an even better situation that you want to look out for, which is I want you to look at a swing high. At the moment, the swing high that I would be looking at is here, right here. So you can see that the top of this candle is higher than the two candles like right next to it. So that's a swing high. So ideally, you want to break the swing high with a candle body close on the daily chart, and then look for those down candles to act as your order block, rather than simply looking for one of these candles to do it. Now, if you wait for that to happen, that is going to give you a much higher chance that price is actually going to go up. And in this trade, I would just set another TP point right here at 0.575. That is going to be a pretty good TP. So that's TP1 and then that's TP2. So 1-inch is in a very interesting situation, but until I see that exact setup happening, I will not buy this, because there is no such thing as cheap in the market. This is not a supermarket where you just go in and you see something like 70% off and like, oh, I should probably get a couple rolls of toilet paper. Over here, anything that's down 70% can go 70% lower, because in the markets, even something that's 70% down can still go 70% down from that point. So do not simply buy something because it's cheap. Now, before I move on to the next coin, I'm going to do a little bit of an update on LDO. So last week, I mentioned that the trend of LDO is still down, and I said you want to look for a market structure break above this high before you even consider buying. And so I told you guys like, hey, it would be a good short at that point. Well, that short has been taken out, but you still have not gotten a candle body close above this high. So at the moment, I still wouldn't jump right into this thinking that, hey, it's actually a good time to buy. What I would do is I would wait for a candle body close above this high, and then any of the retracements back into any of these blocks. For example, over here, this block is going to be good, but this block is only going to be valid if you have a candle body close above this high and then price retraces back in here. Then I would absolutely 100% go for it. And the target for LDO again is going to be a previous swing high, because that is where the liquidity is going to be concentrated at. So this is going to be the TP for long. Now, if you guys are finding this video helpful so far, and if you guys want to learn how to trade exactly like I do and do an analysis like I do, I'm going to be releasing a free course over the next week. And I know immediately what you're thinking. Most free courses suck absolute shit and they don't provide any value. It's only the most basic of information. You can learn more even if you just go on YouTube. But I promise you, this one will be different. I'm going to change the way that you trade. And if that's something that sounds interesting to you, we're not going to be allowing everyone in right off the get-go. So if you want to secure your spot, sign up for the waitlist down below in the description box below, and I will see you there. Now, the third coin we're going to talk about is Solana. Now, I have been talking about Solana for 2 weeks now. And if you remember the analysis I did on 1-inch, this is the exact same type of setup where you have a range low and you have a range high. You can see that price has been trading mostly between these two levels. Now, the times that you do deviate out of the range low and the times where you do deviate out of the range high, you actually return back to the opposite side pretty convincingly. And at the moment, you've just taken out the range low and you've just taken out the liquidity over here on the daily chart. Now, the liquidity that I am talking about is this institutional liquidity beneath these candle body lows here. And I talked about this exact point being the bottom about 2 weeks ago.
So you got the fuel and now you're going up. Now you have a clear candle body close above this bullish order block here. And so when you do return to this bullish order block, that is a go. You know exactly what to do.
Ever since then, it's been up about 10%. Now, there is still a lot more room for Solana to run. Now, what I do want to bring your attention to is the fact that you have somewhat of an inverse heads and shoulders at the moment, where then it's a neckline and you just broke out of it. So this was the ideal entry that I would have liked, but clearly we did not get that. So we're going to have to improvise here. So instead of using that block now, I'm going to use this block. So if you do retrace back into this block, that is going to be a second potential entry for Solana and targeting that white line over there. No, sorry, this level here. And the reason why I target this level here is because there is liquidity hiding above these candle body highs, similar to how liquidity was below these candle body lows. That is where the smart money is placing their stop loss. And we are trading alongside the market makers, so we want to utilize techniques like this. And if you want to learn more about these liquidity concepts, it is going to be all inside that free course that I'm about to release in the next week. Make sure you sign up for the waitlist down below. Next up, let's look at Polkadot. Now, this is also another coin recommended on Twitter. And here, like, Polkadot is in a very interesting situation at the moment. So if we look at the big picture here, you can see that price from this low to this high here, price is currently sitting at about the 0.705 here. And this level matters because the 0.705 is a very significant level, especially when you are trading alongside the market makers, because the algorithms really love to bring the price back to 0.705 and then might just let it take off. And currently price is consolidating around the 0.705 at the moment. And besides that, we can also see that we can clearly identify a range low and a range high. The range high is over there. The last time you deviated, bam, you go to the other side. And at the moment, you have already taken out the range low and you are currently accumulating beneath the range low. Now, this can mean two things. Number one, it is showing weakness and that, it's just getting ready and consolidating for another move downwards. But it could also mean another thing. At the moment, the way I see it is the fact that within that bigger range, you have also formed a smaller range where you have the range high there and the range low there. And currently you have just taken out the liquidity that is sitting below these range low candle bodies, and you are convincingly having some bullish engulfing candles. And so this could be an opportunity, in my opinion, where you could do something with this. So this block is going to be the one to watch, and literally I would be comfortable even just placing a market order long here with a stop loss beneath these candle body lows here at 5.211. So entry at about 5.27 and then targeting the range high. And in this case, I would literally just target like around $7. And this will be a 21-to-1 risk reward ratio. And as long as you practice proper risk management, this is going to be a trade that is going to be in your favor. Because if you, for example, risk $100, you stand to gain about $2,100 out of this trade and up to potentially $3,200. Like, this is just one of those calculated risks that has the potential of paying off immensely to the upside. And this is also called an asymmetric risk. So that is the situation with Polkadot at the moment. That is the trade idea that I'm looking at. Of course, if this trade gets stopped out, then so be it. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. What's most important is that when you do see these moments of asymmetric risk, you make sure that you do take it, because that is how you succeed as a trader. Now, of course, range high here is going to be TP1, and then that here is going to be TP2. Now, moving on to Filecoin. Now, this is also another coin recommended through Twitter, and here is the situation that I'm looking at. Now, Filecoin is also in a pretty similar situation where you have the sell side liquidity taken out already here at 4.27, as you can see over there. Now, price has convincingly displaced higher. Now, what do you mean by displacement? Well, I want you to imagine that the market makers have literally tens or hundreds of billions of dollars to play with, and they have the ability to literally shoot the market straight up or straight down. So whenever you see the markets going straight up or down, just understand that that is where the market makers are involved, and it shows that they want to push the market higher as well. So when they do that, then we just simply follow suit, because we're trying to trade alongside the market makers and we're not trying to trade against them, because that would be a stupid thing to do. So if we're trying to trade alongside them, then we try to spot what they're trying to do, and displacement is usually a pretty good sign. And then now you have just retraced back into a previous bullish order block, which is this consolidation back here. So the entry for this trade is going to be right here, beginning of the end, order block. I know that price has already filled the order block, but you get the idea, right? You're never going to be too late. And then the short-term target is going to be here at 5.56. That is a 8-to-1 risk to reward ratio. And then right here at about 14 risk to reward ratio, which is the long-term target at 6.35. And when I say short-term target, I expect this target to be hit somewhere in the next 2 weeks, while the longer-term target might take a couple of months because price doesn't just go travel in a straight line. Once you hit the short-term target, you might consolidate, you might retrace, whatever the heck, before eventually going to the long-term target. So that, expect this one to take like 2 to 3 months, but the short-term target, I truly expect it to be hit within the month of June. Of course, only if this trade doesn't get invalidated. Now, this is an 8-to-1 risk to reward ratio. So the odds are really in your favor if you do take this trade. But again, this is just what I would do and the idea that I have at the moment for Filecoin. If you do want to take this trade, I highly recommend just using paper trading. I highly recommend that you don't unless you have solid risk management. And the fifth coin that we're going to look at is Engine. Now, this is one of those coins that is not going to look bullish, or I'm not going to lie and say that it's bullish. So a couple of weeks ago, I did a video on Engine saying that this thing just looks weak and expect 0.3 to be retested. At the moment, I still believe that that is going to be the case. If you do want to trade Engine, I would definitely lean towards going short, simply because at the moment, price is just making like lower lows, lower highs, and even within this range here, it's still making lower lows and lower highs. Now, the only situation where I would be bullish is that you break above this previous high, or like even that previous high there, convincingly with a candle body close or like an engulfing type candle, and then price retraces and then you go up. Until that happens, I would really just continue to short this back to 0.3 and potentially even down to 0.282 because this just looks weak. Again, just because something is cheap does not mean that it is a good buy. Anything that has been down like 50% can still go another 50% lower. And Engine at the moment, sadly, it just looks like one of those coins. Of course, this can change pretty quickly, as you guys know. Crypto changes pretty quickly. And I'm just going to leave you guys off with this. You can watch as many of these videos as you want on YouTube, but chances are what you need is not more information. What you need is simply someone to look over your shoulder and let you know what you're doing wrong and what you can improve. If you would love to work with me one-on-one, I'm actually taking on about 5 to 10 students into my mastermind that I have not taken any student that has been closed for the last 7 months. If that sounds like something that's interesting to you, I'm just going to pop a link in the description box below. If you watch until this point in the video so far, you're probably going to be a good fit because you're serious about learning. But either way, I'll simply leave a link below to the mastermind. And if it sounds like something you're interested in, book a call and I will see you there. Bye bye.